know it, but back in the olden days, Northampton had a fairly large music scene. It was mainly due to the venues like Soundhouse and Romender, who all championed live music.
I mean, Soundhouse was vital. I mean, when you look at the bands that played there over the years, it was the regular venue which major touring acts would come to. Everyone from Kasabian to Mogwai to Biffy Cairo, people that have gone on to absolutely massive things. When you came to Northampton, that was where you played. Obviously other venues in the town which would attract people, but in terms of the indie circuit, the touring indie circuit, that was the go-to place.
Soundhouse hosted a number of chart-topping bands over the years, including the Arctic Monkeys, the Killers and the Ting Tings. Sadly, the venue closed in 2008 and has left many fans devastated.
Soundhouse was a place that felt like, if you were into music, you felt like you were part of a team, you were part of a sort of tribe that was, you were all in bands, or you supported bands, or you loved bands, and it was a sort of venue that you'd watch bands and be inspired by them and feel, you know, like, I want to be that person. And I think Northampton lacks that now, because you don't really have any venues that are also club nights, that are also social areas that people can actually not just watch music, but actually like feel like they're a part of something.
Soundhouse was the most iconic music venue to any Northamptonian. It was never the most glamorous venue, but it was a sweaty mass of excitement every Friday night.
We don't have a venue like we used to have, like the Romender as it used to be, and the Soundhouse, which is now just gone. We don't have that size venue. We don't have 1,000 cap or 500 cap. So there's no real reason for bands to stop here. They'll go to Milton Keynes, or they'll just not come all together, which is something that needs to change.
London Grammar are kind of from Northampton, Temples, but I don't think they're really like, there's not really a scene. They just kind of live here. But I wouldn't say they all hang. There's not a place that they all hang out. Like, it used to be Soundhouse where we used to go and like go for nights out, and it all felt like quite a collective. But now it's kind of bit dispersed.
It's difficult for young aspiring musicians as there is no music hub in Northampton. The Keepers are just one of many bands who have had to take a DIY approach to Northampton's music space.
I think locally it's more of a, you have to put the gig on yourself. It's you have to do everything. There's not really any support apart from the support of other bands, is there?
If you take a venue out of a town, it's going to have a devastating impact, whatever. Especially a town the size of Northampton. If you're a large metropolitan city, you're probably going to have 4 or 5 venues of that size. So if that happened in Birmingham, you're probably going to find promoters moving to other venues. But when it happens in a town the size of Northampton, where it is your key venue, it was a problem, because all of a sudden you have it runs the risk of the town falling off the touring map.
The Romender has attempted to take over Soundhouse's legacy, but many have criticised its struggles. It has hosted a long list of iconic bands such as Radiohead, Metallica, Oasis, Travis and the Manic Street Preachers. But sadly, the venue's refurbishment in 1999-2000 saw the venue fall off the touring circuit.
And other venues were putting on shows, Racehorse, the Roadmender, all doing their thing, but none of them were quite as connected to the alternative scene of the 2000s, quite in the same way that the Soundhouse was.
Music venues don't really make any money, and the people who do make money out of music in this town are funded by the Arts Council, or they're struggling, So I think that's the reason why big bands don't come here, because there's just nowhere to play.
There's a quintessential kind of perfect venue for indie, and the Soundhouse had that perfectly for a while, but you still got to invest in it, you still got to spend money on it. I think operating an independent music venue gets harder and harder each year. You look at venues which close, you look at venues which are struggling to pull people in, and no one wants to lose money at the end of the day. I mean, there are some people that are willing to bankroll venues and help their existence, and if you've got someone that can do that, that's brilliant. But I think part of the challenge with a independent music venue, wherever it may be, is making it work financially, because no one can afford to be ploughing money into something where people aren't going.
Northampton Music Festival has been running for 9 years now. It is a free annual event designed to celebrate Northampton's rich culture. The festival is organised by Northampton Music 365, a non-profit community group.
Northampton Music 365 are the parent company, we should probably say that, rather than Northampton Music Festival. But basically they're a not-for-profit organisation, and the whole remit of the organisation is to raise the profile of the town through musical activity, to create opportunities for local musicians, and to actually boost the town's economy through cultural activities. So under that umbrella is the main Northampton Music Festival, the live sessions projects we've been running, and then our young musicians development scheme called The Factory. The Factory, or Y Factory as people previously knew it, was set up about 8 years ago now by Rotary Beckett in Northampton, and they were really keen on trying to create a space for young musicians to be able to perform and to be able to have access to some professional resources. So it's been a challenge, hasn't it?
Yeah, and it ties together really nicely actually, the way that we've got this progression where we have the showcase gigs, this leads into the semi-finals, and then from the finalists as well, somebody gets a slot, the main Northampton Music Festival too.
But really it's about us kind of trying to capture people at this stage, and it's not just about musicians. Within that programme we're looking to offer a mentorship for people who are interested in sound engineering, music media, music press, stage management, event management, and the idea being, you know, if we can invest in these people now, in 5 years' time, Northampton will have this huge bank of music industry specific talent that will help create a legacy for the continuation of the music festival and all its other projects.
More than 1.4 billion people use Facebook to connect with what matters to them, and more than 900 million visit the site every day. Musicians have therefore had to learn how to use their Facebooks as a marketing tool.
I never thought when I was younger and I knew I wanted to work in the music industry, I never thought in a million years that I'd be writing campaign notes and keeping track with big graphs and insight figures and everything on social media growth. And I think it's actually quite worrying, the sponsoring and boosting culture that's come into things like Facebook at the moment and advertising, because I mean I think I heard like in a few weeks or a few months' time the amount you'll have to sponsor a post to make sure it gets to the top of people's news feeds is going to increase. So I think knowing how to handle your social media, knowing the image that you want to put out there, but also knowing how to use it as a tool, as almost like a software nowadays, to make sure that you're making the most out of it and what you want to say to people is actually reaching their computer screens or their phone screens or whatever. That's such an important skill to have now in music.
The craziest thing about it is I can literally do it all on my phone as well, so I think Facebook's done a treat here, because you can literally just give them £300 while you're doing something else in the day on your phone. So I've got a page here, I've got an app here that just opens the page up, that's my page, and just go to a status, and literally here I just click edit boost, and boost means just paying, and that just says I've got £2.07 there, total budget is £8, audience details, and I've got mine set to like Bristol, Leeds, Liverpool, London, Manchester, York, all the places I want. Age is 18 to 65, and then here is add budget, so you can just add your budget as you go.
Known culture now is when you send, you know, I don't know, a few demos through or something about this band, it comes with their social media profiles, and the first thing you do is check how many likes they've got, check how many followers you've got, because it's sort of like a barometer of success almost nowadays. So it's so important, and it's so important for people that work behind it to understand how to use it and how to interpret it properly.
We dance together, you got me for tonight. Forget we ever made it in daylight. I only told you, you got it all mapped out, it's too much too soon. Let's dance just for tonight, let's dance just for tonight.
I always tend to be more biased to the importance of live music, because it's the most enjoyable thing. It's the thing that the apps are doing, it's where you're rated and understood and respected as an artist, is your live show, and that can never ever be ignored. And I think it's so important for breaking new artists, and so important for the bigger artists to make sure that they're still turning a profit, that I still think that live music is probably the most important area of the industry. At the end of the day is what we all love to do. Musicians love to play gigs, people love to go to gigs. That's the way I enjoy music the most, so I don't have a problem with that being the most powerful side of the industry at the moment.